You know guys, the more I think about this chapter of Tokyo Ghoul Ray, the more I'm realizing this chapter, chapter 76, could potentially be a huge turning point in this series. This was a very short chapter, but nonetheless a very good chapter, and we got a ton of plot progression and a ton of important things. So I decided it would be good to do an analysis for this chapter, as well as some predictions for next week with chapter 77. In the analysis portion of this video, there are pretty much two major things I want to talk about, and as I'm sure you guys can guess, those two things are one, the inner monologue Kaneki has at the beginning of the chapter, and two, the fight between Eto and Furuta, as well as Furuta's nature as a one-eyed ghoul, which is not necessarily shocking to me, but it was still a little bit unexpected that it was revealed this early. And then after I'm done analyzing all that, I'll get into the predictions for next week. Okay, so let's start things off here with that inner monologue by Kaneki at the beginning of the chapter, and I'm going to start by giving a quick rundown of what's happening. And pretty much what it is it's Kaneki talking to himself, accepting his own faults, and sort of realizing who he is and sort of where he belongs in a very sincere manner, and this is really something we've never seen in the series thus far. The entire series has been centered around the journey of Kaneki searching for himself, and he's constantly transitioning between personalities. He doesn't really have a good grasp of exactly what his identity is and where he belongs in the world, but for the first time ever, I would say, in Tokyo Ghoul, Kaneki sort of seems to be coming to terms with who he is, which is just revolutionary if you ask me. Kaneki is the kind of person who lies to himself all the time. He lied about how he loved his mother, for instance, his mother who beat him. He lied about his entire past when he was Heisei Sasaki, and he also lied about claiming he was happy as Heisei, when in reality he really wasn't that happy. And this is why I think this chapter could be such a huge turning point in Tokyo Ghoul Ray, because for the first time, once again, Kaneki is being true to himself and realizing who he is. What this means with regards to larger significance for the series is one, there's for sure going to be a personality change in Kaneki, which I'll talk about a little bit more in a second with the whole hair color changing metaphor. And this personality change seemingly is for the better, because you see Kaneki giving a very sincere smile in this chapter, and we can't say for certain at this point. We'll have to see with next week's chapter, but I do think it's a change for the better. I do think he might be happier after this change, at least for the time being. The notion of a personality change for Kaneki is supported by the fact that in this chapter, his hair color appears to be completely white now, and we know how Ishida loves to play around with Kaneki's hair and use it as a sort of metaphor for his personality changing or some sort of major change within Kaneki. And pretty much each time in the series thus far, Kaneki's hair has changed color, whether it be from black to white in part 1, or to a mixture of sort of black and white with Heisei Sasaki, and then to pure black as the Black Reaper. Each time there's been a pretty significant personality change, and I think Kaneki's hair changing to pure white in this chapter is not a coincidence, and that his personality has once again changed pretty severely. So I guess what I'm trying to say is if there's anything to take away from that monologue, is that we're probably going to see a new Kaneki in the next chapter. Moving on here, let's talk about Furuta's character in the fight between Furuta and Eto, because there's no doubt at this point, especially when it's revealed that Furuta is the one-eyed ghoul, that he's going to play a very important role in the series in the chapters to come. To give you guys a brief rundown of basically what happens in this fight, Furuta pretty much wrecks Eto with his Kagane in this chapter. He slices straight through her Kakuja and is revealed, most importantly at the end of the chapter, to be a one-eyed ghoul. And I think at this point is a very high chance, if it's not confirmed, that he's either a high-ranking officer or some sort of very powerful asset for V. And for this reason, I think he might actually be a little stronger than Eto. Keep in mind that this is purely speculation, guys, and none of this is confirmed in the slightest, but at the same time, do not let this guy's personality fool you. Furuta may act like a complete idiot, but the reality is, he might just be the most dangerous character that we've seen in the series thus far. Also, the fact that Furuta is a one-eyed ghoul, of course, leads to questions about his nature as a one-eyed ghoul. That is he artificially made, or is he natural like Eto? And my personal answer to that is I think he's natural, but not entirely natural, and I'll get to explaining that in just a second here. Recall that in a flashback with Rize, Furuta asked her, and I quote here, "Rize, were you bred too?" So this would imply that Furuta was somehow bred as a one-eyed ghoul, and to clarify what this implies with regards to significance for Furuta's true nature, let me go ahead and read you the definition of breeding here. Breeding refers to the activity of controlling the mating and production of offspring in animals. In light of this, guys, here's my theory. V is essentially having ghouls and humans make babies, and in this manner, they're pretty much breeding one-eyed ghouls, and Furuta, therefore, is the product of this breeding. So Furuta probably does have biological parents, but at the same time, he wasn't really made naturally. He wasn't made as a product of love, as Eto was, but rather his parents were sort of forced into mating and making him. The fact that Furuta was bred as a one-eyed ghoul may also have something to do with why he can't call his father, as Eto said, but exactly why this is, I can't really say just yet. Also, at this point, it is highly likely, if not confirmed, that Eto knows exactly what V is up to with regards to this breeding and perceives them as a threat, which is exactly why she's fighting against them. To sum up everything with Furuta, guys, my theory is that Furuta wasn't produced artificially and actually does have biological parents, but is still the product of breeding experiments via V or the CCG, basically mass producing, or not necessarily mass producing, but at the very least producing one-eyed ghouls. Alright, and with all of this in mind, let's go ahead and get into some predictions for next week's chapter, as well as some of the future chapters beyond next week. And the first prediction here is, I do think Furuta is stronger than Eto, and this is pure speculation, this is sort of a gut feel, but I do think Furuta is stronger than Eto, and if the two continue to fight, it could end badly, and Eto will probably be defeated. Will Eto die? I don't necessarily think so, because she did survive the whole fiasco of that fight with Kaneki. If she can survive that, I think she can survive a fight with Furuta, but even still, I don't think this fight is going to end too well for her, and I think it's somehow going to be interrupted before she actually dies, but even still, I think she might just be defeated here. Another thing, and this is probably the most important prediction with regards to the larger significance of the series as a whole, this chapter revealed just how much more there is in Tokyo Ghoul, at least in my opinion. There are so many loose ends with regards to Furuta, with regards to V, and so many more people that this series can't possibly be ending soon. Maybe Tokyo Ghoul Ray is ending soon and there'll be a part 3, but Tokyo Ghoul itself, I think personally, has a long way to go, which is great. My third prediction here is with regards to the fight between Kaneki and Arma, and I actually think that this fight is also going to be interrupted or stopped in some way, and the main reason for this is, it's way too early for either Kaneki or Arma to be dying. Arma I think is too strong to die, and Kaneki I don't think is going to die, if he's going to die in the first place, until the end of the series, so I don't think either of them are going to die. I think one's going to be defeated and maybe will sort of escape in some way. One way this could possibly go down is it was hinted in previous chapters that Arma actually still cares for Kaneki to some extent, and he almost might be using this fight as a means to teach his proverbial son and Kaneki, so I think that maybe after this personality change, Kaneki and Arma may end up just stopping their fight. I can't really say this for sure though, because Arma is just such an unknown guy. We know nothing about his motivations, we know nothing about who he truly is and how he truly is. So I'm gonna go ahead and say that we can't form any definite conclusions here, but at the same time, if I had to choose, I think this fight is gonna stop or somehow be interrupted without either of the two dying. The next prediction is one that I've sort of already touched on, and it's that Kaneki will undergo a major personality change in the next chapter and the chapters following, and this change will probably be for the better. And the reason why I say this is, he's mostly accepted himself to some extent, he's accepted his own flaws, he seems like he's going to discard his suicidal tendencies, and that smile in this chapter makes me think that he might be moving closer to happiness. It's difficult to say because Tokyo Ghoul is a series where you rarely see happiness, so I'm a little bit ambivalent about this prediction, but at the same time, that smile just sort of struck me as very sincere, so I do think for the time being right after this chapter, Kaneki is going to be a little happier. At the same time though, and this is my fifth prediction here, I think there's going to be a major death of someone close to Kaneki coming up soon, and I think this will act against Kaneki's personality change to some extent. What the end outcome will be for Kaneki, I don't really know, but the way Ishida has been writing this series thus far, I don't think Kaneki will be truly happy for a prolonged period of time until the very end of the series, or not at all. So I doubt the happiness he seemingly found in this chapter is going to last too long because one of his close friends, either Toka or Hinami, is probably going to die, if not both. Man, you know, if Ishida went and killed off both Toka and Hinami, I would be really sad and really upset, because I know it's Tokyo Ghoul is supposed to be sad, but that seems a little bit over the top. At the same time though, I really would not put it past Ishida. Anyways guys, that's pretty much gonna do it for this analysis of chapter 76. As always, if you enjoyed it, if you found this video informative in any way, be sure to drop me a like down below, and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already for more Tokyo Ghoul content in the future. And of course, be sure to let me know your own thoughts on this chapter, and your own thoughts on Kaneki's monologue, as well as the fight between Eto and Furuta, because I'm sure your guys' individual thoughts will differ a lot from mine. Otherwise, I hope you all have an awesome rest of your day, and I will see you in my next video.